Hey there everybody, thanks for joining me for another one-man review. Today I'm going to be taking a look at a bunch of pieces by the same artist name, Ng Tvedt, I believe is how you say the name. I first came across this artist in this anthology. I have a video up, a review of this called Pluie from Lagan Review. And in this, the Ng Tvedt produced this piece here, but it's in French, and this came with a translation sheet, but as you can see, the language is embedded in the images in a way, and there's a lot of like blowing language up and connecting it, a lot of like non-linear play, it looks like, with language, blowing the letters out and things like that. So I had, even though I could read it, I don't think I was really getting the context of what was going on here, but there's like a cubist approach to comics almost that really interested in me, where it's like the things that are normally separated out get flattened down together. So I really wanted to see more work by this artist, and when I looked online, luckily the rest of the stuff I could find was in English, and so I went ahead and got that. Unfortunately, in these works, there's not as much play with like the blowing up or the non-linear nature of the language, but there's still a lot visually to offer here, I think, but also like not as complex as what showed up in the Pluie, I don't think. So this one is called R, and you can see that it's just a bunch of different arrangements of like the expression and just some visuals to go with it. Also kind of strange that it's like on this hole punch material, but also stapled. So some weird production choices here. And then visually interesting, but nowhere near as complex as what you're getting in Pluie. This next piece here, this one is called SNAKEBOB, Looked Around the Apartment and Sighed, an edition of 100 copies. Again, it has this very strange, like I can put it in my binder holes in it for what I can't see any good reason for that, given that it's stapled on the side. But you can see that the linguistics here actually really like plays a more important role than just how many ways can I draw out the scream R. Like here you actually have someone talking about looking around their apartment and trying to find stuff, and so the visuals that accompany the words really add almost like inflection to them, or like the timbre to them, so it's a very kind of musical approach to things. And visually you can see that there's still this very like what I'm calling cubist breakdown of the space of the typical comics page, where you take all these things that are normally separated and normally seen one at a time in sequence, and you flatten them all out and have them kind of all exist on the same plane. I think that's a really, really cool kind of visual approach that Ng Tvedt is taking in this. But because there's not any of those like where the language is blowing out, the stuff that I was kind of suspecting, hoping was going on in the French one, where language starts to have multiple meanings and gets picked apart in interesting ways, is also not happening in this, nor is it happening in this one. So I'm a little bit disappointed that I didn't get to see more of what looked like some interesting language games, because I think that there's a lot of possibility for that in this. Obviously not everything that the artist does is going to be that exact same thing, but this gives you a really clear look at the kind of cool compositional effects, at least, and the different approaches to creating like a metaphoric sense of meaning using the visuals that Ng Tvedt is still, I think, cracking open for comics in a way that I've never seen before. And then this one is really beautiful, really well produced, but in terms of content, it's not that interesting. It's more of a formal experiment, I think. So this is called Can I Have a Word With You? SNAKEBOB, Can I Have a Word With You? This one is beautifully printed. The colors on here are really, really lovely. But it's pretty much just each spread is like a different way of these characters saying, can I have a word with you? And then over time that gets spaced out to where you have like entire pages that are just which again isn't the most interesting reading experience, but as a visual experience I find it quite pleasurable. And then it's really, really fun to go and look at all of these little characters that are rendered here, because each one of these characters is unique. Even ones like this, where they seem like they're making largely the same pose, it's definitely an individual drawing, different faces going on, different parts of the pose being showed. So yeah, design-wise, the fact that you can kind of see through the paper like this, and it's almost like a vellum-y look on the paper, is really cool. There's a lot going on here formally that I find compelling. Unfortunately, in these three, like I said, there's not that language games. So this one, I would say, if anyone is looking to get some of this work and check it out, I would say SNAKEBOB Looked Around the Apartment and Sighed is the one with the most content. The SNAKEBOB Can I Have a Word with You is the most visually compelling because it's the production and the color. I think if you can read French, the one in Pluie is probably the best one. And then, quite honestly, I don't think that SNAKEBOB and Infinite Scream with a Blood Red Clot is really something that I find necessary, because it's just a bunch of ways of screaming the word off. But the rest of them, I think, are very interesting pieces. And this is an artist that, like I said, is bringing something entirely new to the game of comics as far as what I've ever seen. And I think there's some strategies in here that, like a lot of when I'm looking at more experimental work, I'm picking up on the formal strategies and putting it in the reservoir of tricks, and trying to see what could come out of it that has a more commonly mass market appeal type of application to that, where you could really tell a story. So I'm definitely going to be mulling over this idea of cubist comics for a long time to come, and I really look forward to seeing more SNAKEBOB production. I'm assuming SNAKEBOB is kind of like the Ng Tvedt name, or if that's the series name, I'm not sure, but definitely looking forward to seeing more works by Ng Tvedt or SNAKEBOB.